Welcome back to Breakfast with Bob. My name is Bob Babbitt. We are ignited by Athlinks. We are at the legendary Blueprint for Athletes Leadville 100 Mountain Bike Classic. Our guest, Mr. Paul Thomas. No, he's not racing. Yes, he's the only person in the field at the age of 10 who ran a sub 5-minute mile. But he's going to be out there supporting. How many athletes are you supporting out there?
We kind of limited to 10 this year.
10 athletes.
We want to be good with 10.
Yeah. And talk a little bit about the importance of support at a race like this. People think of a 100-mile race and it's you against the conditions, but getting food, nutrition, jackets, shoes, you have to have somebody out there.
Well, everyone shows up with their $10,000 bikes. They've done all the training. They've done everything. But I'd say 85, 90% of these people are really kind of loosey-goosey on their feeds and their prep, how the logistics for the day. So I think that's the number one element. The only thing that I've perfected at this race is that I fed right, because I'm not a great mountain biker, can't descend. I come from low altitude.
Yes.
But I know how to feed.
You know how to feed, and the importance of making sure like when you're climbing, you want to be as light as possible, right? You want to get rid of your camelback or things like that when you climb. Do you get rid of gear and add gear throughout the day?
First of all, I have a professional. When I race, I have a professional crew. Her name is Noreen Carey. That's my wife.
Yes.
And she nails it. So I start off with light, because as Todd says, you have to climb up St. Kevin's immediately when you're cold and you go anaerobic. So you want to be light. And then coming off a power line is I take a camelback, because at that point, it's relatively flat, so to speak, all the way to Columbine. And so I dump the camelback there. She gives me a new camelback on the return, because it's an outback.
So you don't want to carry that up. That's a few pounds.
Right. We pay for the light bikes. Well, we don't want to be carrying
extra baggage. Right?
First year I did. I carried a 100-ounce camelback going up Columbine. Wasn't a good idea.
No. So what else? Are people riding? This race is so different because you're spending the first part of it on the road and a lot of fire road, and there's some fast sections. Are you riding road pedals, road shoes? What? Talk about the gearing that's different for this race than other races.
Well, I've always done the mountain bike. I've typically, even at this race, you'll see some people out there with cyclocross bikes.
Yes.
And if it says mountain bike in the title of the race, I ride a mountain bike.
Because you figure they know.
Yes. However, I think on this course, there's a lot of people that it's like a road race. And a friend of mine, Chad Beyer, that did the race last year, I brought him up with me, and he's a pro road racer. And afterwards, he couldn't lift his arms up. And I said, "Hey, Chad, how was that road race?"
Yeah.
So it is a road race.
No shocks is probably a tough
right, exactly. So road shoes you could get away with. It's not too muddy, but typically just go with your standard gear for a mountain bike race.
How does this race differ from your typical mountain bike race? Is it more because it sounds like there's some pack riding in there. It sounds like it's different than a ton of single track and a ton of really technical.
I wish I could answer that. The only mountain bike races I've done is Leadville, Barn Burner, and Huddles race, and they're all
Cedar
fire road.
City, yeah.
However, I could imagine that this really is, if you're a savvy road racer and you come here, you can kind of tiptoe your way through this race a little bit easier than if you're at a single track race. And it is interesting to watch the road racers that come here. They ride it a lot differently. Even an elite pro mountain biker, they don't quite get the rotation. It's there's a lot of, I'd say 50% of the race you could actually benefit from riding somebody's wheel. So again, I haven't done a lot of single, real mountain bike racing, if you don't want to call this a not real mountain bike race, but it's not for those, we see a lot of triathletes coming into this sport.
Yes.
It's not as technical as I would guess some of the other stuff. So but it's demanding. I'd have to say it's the hardest thing I've ever done.
And I think probably the hardest thing you've ever done or will have ever done will be tomorrow, trying to take care of 10 people. It's going to be like herding cats, trying to take care of 10 people on this course.
Well, going into it, I told Noreen, so we're going to be working 2 different feed zones. So essentially they'll have 4 feeds because it's out and back. And feeding, if you want to feed properly, you really have to be in the zone. Until you actually do a race, you have a feeder really doesn't know how important, because they're not thirsty, they're not hungry, they're not tired like the athlete is. But I've done that. So I have to get my mental game face on to make sure that we get these feeds efficiently. And when I've done this race, the only time I've ever stopped is when I've got a flat. But Noreen has always given great feeds, and where you take a camelback on the fly. Can we do this to people that you really don't know that well? maybe we'll have them stop. I'm not ready for a lawsuit.
What I like is that you've got your game face on already. You're already ready to make this happen.
Oh, it's amazing. Just the entire town. It's like the frenzy, just like Kona. You've been to Kona a few times, right?
A few times.
Yeah, so it's
got that mystique.
Yep.
All right. Paul Thomas has been our guest. Again, this is Breakfast with Bob. We are ignited by Athlinks. We are at the Leadville 100. It's the blueprint for athletes, Leadville 100, a mountain bike legendary event. Hold on, everyone. We will be right back.